Hello everyone, welcome back to my student cookbook. Today we are making chili con carne, but obviously without the meat. I have 3 or 4 go-to recipes and they're all ones where you shove everything in the same pot and wait for it to cook. So they're very easy to make, they're great for cooking in bulk, and they're great for sort of batch freezing. Today's recipe is one of my go-to ones, and honestly every time I make it I use different ingredients and it turns out differently. Feel free to change this up or change the quantities as much as you want, because I just improvise every time. It just kind of depends what you've got in the cupboard and how much stuff you want to put in and what you're feeling like, but it turns out fine every time. So I guess I better tell you the ingredients you need. You can change in quantities and change the things as much as you want. As long as you put in some chili powder, it will taste kind of like a chili. Obviously, mince, meat-free mince, corn mince. I just get whatever one's cheapest at the time I go to the shop. I'm using 2 red onions, a red pepper and a green pepper, about half a punnet of mushrooms, a can of kidney beans, a can of sweet corn, 2 cartons of chopped tomatoes, some garlic and some tomato puree. So I started by chopping all my vegetables. It's definitely down to personal preference here, but for a chili I like all my vegetables to be cut quite small. In the biggest pan I own, if I had a bigger pan I would be using it, I'm heating some oil and frying the onions for a couple of minutes. When they start to go sort of translucent, I add in the peppers and then I cook those for a couple more minutes. Once they're nearly cooked, I add in the mushrooms. So I let those cook down for a few more minutes and then it's time to add the mince. And I only used half a packet here, basically just because if I used any more, the pot would overflow. With corn mince, I like to dry fry it for a little bit first before adding any liquid or sauce, so that's what I'm doing here, before very, very gracefully adding the chopped tomatoes. These Sainsbury's cartons are great, but they do kind of squelch everywhere while you're trying to empty them. I was thinking 1 can or carton was going to be enough, but judging by how the pan looked, there just wasn't enough liquid in there, so I decided on adding 2. That's something you can definitely kind of judge by eye. That's all the hard work done. All the things that need to be cooked for a while are now in the pan. So while that's simmering away, I do a bit of a clear up and a little bit of prep. So I'm going to drain the kidney beans and the sweet corn from the cans and prep the garlic, which for me isn't going to take much because I'm just going to use a garlic crusher, but if you want to chop it up, do that. So I really like garlic. I'm using 3 cloves in this, but honestly I could have used more, and I like to add it quite late on because the later you add it, the more flavour it still has. So if you want more flavour for your money, then add the garlic later on. Next up I added some stock. So to do that I boiled some water, I mixed in an OXO cube, and then I just poured all of that nice mixture into the pot. Mince like this soaks up liquids, so you may need to keep adding water or stock or tomatoes, whatever you want, just so that it doesn't go too dry and it's nice and saucy still. Now it's time to add the sweet corn and the kidney beans. Like I said, all of this is kind of improvised. You can add them when you want, but seeing as they don't need cooking because you can eat them straight out the can, they don't really need adding until kind of the last minute just to heat them up. In terms of spices, I'd actually run out of chili powder, but I have been using a mixture of cayenne pepper and quite spicy paprika, and that seems to work really well. And then a huge helping of dried coriander, because I absolutely love coriander. If you're one of those people who has the genetic defect thing, which means you taste soap when you eat coriander, I am so sorry, you're missing out. The final thing to add is a giant dollop of tomato puree, just to kind of thicken it up, add a bit more tomatoey flavour, mix that all in, and then, I mean, it's ready to eat then if you want to. I like to simmer it for at least 10 minutes. If I had a lid for the pan, I would do it with a lid on, but they all fell down the back of the fridge in first year, so I don't have any lids. I'd cook it for maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes after this, just so that all the flavours can absorb and it's extra, extra yummy. So usually with chili, I serve it with rice and a lot of fresh coriander, but you can have it with nachos, with avocado on top, in a burrito. I have it on its own if I'm not feeling too hungry. It's basically just super versatile and super yummy, and also really cheap to make. Talking of how cheap it is, as usual, I've got a little price breakdown for you. Math student, what can I say? This made me 6 portions of chili at a total price of £3.82, which means around 63p a portion, plus whatever rice or nachos or tortilla wrap you're going to be using as well. As usual, I am very happy with that, and I think that's a pretty good price to pay for such a filling meal. To be honest, I probably have it every 2 or 3 days, sometimes even more than that, because I make such big batches of this. I would make bigger batches if I could. If I had a bigger pan, I would totally like make a massive vat of it. But I batch cook, I batch freeze, and then the whole freezer is just full of Tupperware boxes of different variations of chili and also curry, but that's for another video. That was my recipe for chili sin carne. As I've said, it comes out differently every time, but that's more or less how I prefer to have it. Maybe minus the sweet corn, add in a few different types of beans and a load of fresh coriander. I didn't have any the day I filmed this, which is super sad because I love coriander with my whole heart. If you decide to give this recipe a go, I would love to see some pictures, so either tag me on Instagram or tweet them at me. My links are below as usual. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you very soon.